Imagine a morning when you wake up in a familiar room, but your mind has long gone elsewhere. Your body is here, in the present, yet your mind wanders, thinking about an unsent email, an unfinished conversation, or the things you wish you had done differently. The light slips through the window, birds sing outside, warmth rises from the cup of tea in your hands, everything is still here, but you are no longer truly here to feel it. You live, but you are not truly alive. In an age where everything demands speed, work, social media, news, notifications, and even invisible expectations, we have gradually lost the simplest yet most profound ability, the ability to be present. We no longer know how to simply be here without chasing after anything. The mind is pulled between past and future, realms filled with regret, anxiety, and imagination. Amidst this restless current, the present moment, the only real moment we have, fades like a fleeting dream. Have you ever asked yourself, when do you truly live in the present? Not just exist, but truly live, when you can feel the gentle flow of your breath, the whisper of wind through the leaves, the quiet rhythm of your own heartbeat. That small, simple moment, that is where life truly happens. In the Buddha's teaching, there is a path both simple and profoundly deep, the path of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not a technique for relaxation, nor a method to control emotions or thoughts. It is a way of living, an art of awakening in everyday life, guiding us back to ourselves, to each unfolding moment. Mindfulness is the capacity to see without judgment, to recognize without attachment, to be present without being swept away. With each breath, each step, each glance, the practitioner of mindfulness learns to dwell fully in the present, not being carried off by what has passed or what is yet to come. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." Mindfulness is that path, the path of awakening, freedom, and inner peace. Yet, paradoxically, in our modern society, mindfulness has become the most forgotten thing. We search for peace in countless outer forms, in success, wealth, relationships, or even in the pursuit of spiritual goals. We think peace is a destination, something that will come once everything falls into place. But the Buddha taught that peace exists nowhere else but right here, right now. A person may travel the whole world in search of happiness, but if they never pause to feel their feet upon the ground, they will never find it. Just as the moon is never lost, only hidden by clouds, the stillness and clarity within each of us are always present, we need only return to them. To practice mindfulness is to come home to yourself, not to escape the world, but to live more deeply in it. It is the journey of the awakened one, realizing that happiness is not born of control, but blossoms from letting go and understanding. When the mind rests in the present moment, everything becomes clearer, sounds, light, people, even pain. Because when we are truly present, we are no longer ruled by the past or anxious about the future, we simply live this moment fully. And that is the miraculous power of mindfulness. It does not promise a life free from suffering, but it gives us the wisdom to understand suffering and the compassion to embrace it. Mindfulness does not make us perfect, it helps us see that we are already whole when we are authentically present. When we look deeply with an awakened heart, even an ordinary breath becomes a miracle. The world may be chaotic, but if we can pause for just one moment, breathing in, knowing we are breathing in, breathing out, knowing we are breathing out, then in that very moment, we have already come home. That is where peace begins. That is where life truly blossoms. For the power of mindfulness does not lie in changing the world, but in waking up within it. When your mind becomes still, the world around you softens. When you listen with a heart free of judgment, life begins to speak to you in the language of truth. On this Buddha's wisdom journey, let us take this path together, the path of mindfulness, the path of returning home to ourselves. Let the Buddha's teachings illuminate our way, reminding us that in every breath of the present moment, we can find the freedom we have always been seeking. For mindfulness is not something you learn from a book, it is something you live. And when you truly live with awareness, every ordinary moment becomes a sacred teaching, the transformative power of mindfulness, the path of awakening. Through the four foundations of awareness. Throughout the journey of life, our mind often behaves like a restless traveler that never stops wandering. It constantly chases after one thing, avoids another, seeks pleasure, and fears pain. When success arises, it fears losing it, when failure comes, it fears being hurt. And within this endless cycle, the mind grows weary, lost in the very maze it has created. Yet mindfulness, like a soft and gentle light, guides that restless mind back to where it truly belongs, the present moment. To understand mindfulness correctly, we must see that it is not merely concentration, nor simply a technique to relieve stress. Mindfulness is the capacity for full awareness, a total awakening to everything that is unfolding. Emotions, thoughts, the body, and the world around us, without judgment, without labeling, without rushing to react. When you are angry, you simply know that anger is present. When sadness arises, you recognize that sadness is here. When peace blossoms, you are aware that calmness is blooming within. There is no need to force anything away or make anything different. Just be aware. Just be present. In that simple awareness, a new space opens, a space where the mind is no longer identified with emotions, where we are no longer victims of what is happening. The Buddha taught, "Nothing lasts forever, all things are impermanent." And mindfulness is the doorway through which we directly see impermanence in each of our experiences. When you look into anger with awareness, you see it arise, peak, and fade away. When you look into fear, you see it has a beginning and an end. No emotion is eternal. No thought is your true self. They are all just passing clouds drifting across the vast sky of consciousness. And when we truly see this, wisdom begins to blossom. Wisdom does not come from reading countless scriptures or thinking deeply, it arises from silent, clear, and honest observation of what is. Mindfulness in the Buddhist teaching, the path of awakening through the four foundations of awareness. In Buddhist teaching, the foundation of mindfulness practice is known as the four foundations of awareness, satipatthana, the four pillars of awakening. 1. Contemplation of the body, kayanupassana. Be aware of this body, its breath, its steps, its movements, its sensations, as they are. Not my body, but simply the body that is present. When breathing in, know that you are breathing in. When walking, know that you are walking. When tired, know that tiredness is here. Through this awareness, you see that the body is impermanent, a flowing process, not me, not mine. 2. Contemplation of feelings, vedananupassana. Recognize feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, without clinging or aversion. When joy arises, do not grasp at it, when pain comes, do not reject it. Simply know, this is a feeling that has arisen. In that awareness, you are no longer controlled by feeling, you are free. 3. Contemplation of the mind, cittānupassana. Look deeply into the state of your mind. A mind with greed or without greed, a mind with anger or without anger, a mind that is clear or agitated. Do not judge, do not hide. Simply observe, like a witness, not swept away by the current of mental formations. 4. Contemplation of mental objects, dhammanupassana. See clearly the nature of all phenomena, the laws, both psychological and natural, that govern life. See impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self in every experience. When seen deeply, awakening reveals itself naturally. The Buddha once proclaimed, "This is the only path that leads to the purification of beings, to the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, to the ending of pain and grief." to the attainment of the right path, and to the realization of nirvana. It is the four foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness, living deeply, not escaping life. To practice mindfulness is not to escape life, but to live it more deeply. When you wash the dishes with awareness, you are not merely cleaning a bowl, you are cleansing your own mind. When you listen to someone with full attention, you are offering them the most precious gift of all, your complete presence. The transformative power of mindfulness. Mindfulness holds a miraculous power of transformation, not through force, but through the light of understanding. In darkness, you do not fight the dark, you simply light a candle, and darkness disappears on its own. Likewise, within the mind, the moment awareness arises, ignorance begins to fade. When faced with anger, our habitual reaction is to strike back, to speak words that wound, to act unconsciously, and then regret. But with mindfulness, we pause and see clearly. This is anger that is present. In that very moment, we are no longer the anger itself. We are the one who sees it. And in that seeing, we are already free. Freedom does not come from destroying emotions, but from not being enslaved by them. Mindfulness leads us step by step. From reaction to observation to understanding and finally, to letting go. Each step is a deeper layer of liberation. When we observe long enough, we begin to understand that anger itself is a form of pain asking to be heard. We see that beneath anger lies hurt, beneath fear lies the longing for safety, beneath sadness lies the desire to be understood. And when we truly see, compassion naturally arises. That is the power of mindfulness, transforming suffering into wisdom, reaction into understanding, and ignorance into light. Mindfulness does not erase life's difficulties, but it allows us to walk through them without being drowned. It teaches us that even amid chaos, there exists a still place within, untouched by any storm. When we live with mindfulness, the mind is no longer ruled by greed, anger, or delusion. It becomes luminous, free, and filled with understanding. We are no longer the ones chasing emotions, but the ones witnessing them. No longer swept away by life, but truly living it. And one day, as you walk in quiet awareness, you may suddenly realize something wondrous. There is nothing left to seek. For peace has always been right here. In the simple rhythm of your own breath, the practice of mindfulness does not only take place on a meditation cushion, in a temple, or within the silence of a retreat hall. True mindfulness begins the moment we step out of the meditation hall. When we walk into the unpredictable rhythm of daily life, surrounded by sounds, movements, and uncertainties. It is precisely within this ever-changing world that mindfulness shines most brightly. Because if our mind is only peaceful when the world is quiet, that peace is still fragile. But if, amid the noise, we can still hold one calm breath, that is the true strength of awakening. Look into the most ordinary moments of your day. When you drink a glass of water, have you ever truly felt the coolness spreading in your mouth, the water flowing down your throat, your breath moving in harmony with that simple act? When you wash the dishes, do you ever notice the warmth of the water, the touch of your hands on the bowl, the soft murmur of water flowing like a gentle melody? When you listen to another person, do you truly listen, not to reply, but to understand? That is mindfulness in action. There is no need to separate meditation from life. For life itself is the meditation. Every small act, when done with full awareness, becomes a deep spiritual practice. The Buddha once taught, in every breath, the path of liberation is already here. It means we don't need to wait until our mind becomes perfect to find peace. We only need to pause and see clearly what is happening right now. When we eat mindfully, the food nourishes not only the body, but also the heart. When we work mindfully, our work is no longer just a means of survival. It becomes an opportunity to cultivate focus and serenity. When we speak mindfully, our words become seeds of understanding and compassion. With each moment like that, our mind becomes as clear as a still lake. Waves of emotion may still arise, but they no longer disturb the calmness beneath. Mindfulness does not make us indifferent. On the contrary, it allows us to feel more deeply, but with clarity and without attachment. In the modern world, where everything changes so quickly, mindfulness is like a spiritual anchor, keeping us from drifting away. It does not mean abandoning work, family, or society, but learning to live among them with a free heart. A mindful person is not one who escapes the world, but one who can dwell within it without being bound by it. True freedom is not about where you go or what you do, but whether your mind is still chained or not. If you work with gratitude in your heart, you are free. If you sit in the midst of a noisy city, yet remain calm inside, you are free. If you face pain without fear, you are free. When we live mindfully, every circumstance becomes an opportunity to grow. Difficulties are no longer enemies, but teachers that help us understand ourselves more deeply. Joy is no longer something to cling to, but something to appreciate with gratitude. And suffering is no longer a burden, but a doorway to wisdom. An awakened person sees life differently. They see that everything comes and goes, nothing needs to be held too tightly. They understand that happiness and suffering are two sides of the same truth, and both have something precious to teach. They live lightly, because they know that nothing is truly mine. There is only the ongoing flow of life. When you live with mindfulness, the world within and the world around you begin to harmonize. You are no longer lost in thoughts as before. You no longer try to change others in order to find peace, because peace has already taken root within you. You no longer seek peace, because peace has become the way you live, moment by moment. And then, something miraculous happens. The smallest things become sacred. A gentle breeze, a smile, a sunset, all reveal the radiance of life. You begin to see that life has never lacked miracles. We were simply too busy to notice. This is the awakening that the Buddha pointed to. Not an escape from life, but an awakening within it. For enlightenment is not something distant. It is the awareness present in each moment. When you know you are breathing in, breathing out, and living, you have already touched the very source of nirvana in everyday life. A person who lives in mindfulness needs no special refuge, for their own heart has become a sanctuary. They do not need to prove anything, for their presence itself is proof of peace. They do not need to speak much of the Dharma, for every step, every glance they offer is already a living Dharma teaching. And you, too, can become such a person. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to come home to yourself. Begin with one breath, one step, one moment of awareness amid the rhythm of life. Begin today by sitting quietly for a few seconds and realizing, I am here. I am alive. That is the moment you truly return home. That is where your wandering mind finally rests. Where peace is no longer an illusion, but a living reality. Let Buddha's wisdom journey walk beside you on this path. The path of returning home, where mindfulness is not just a teaching, but the art of living deeply in this very world. If this reflection has touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the Buddha's wisdom and the practice of mindfulness in every breath. And share your reflections in the comments, for perhaps your heartfelt words may become a light that helps someone else find their own peace. Because every path of awakening begins with a single breath and ends with a smile of serenity. There are moments in life when we feel as though we've lost everything, our peace, our direction, our faith. But then, in the silence, we realize that we've never truly lost anything. Everything is still there, we just haven't been still enough to see it. Like a lake after the wind passes, when the ripples fade, the reflection of the moon returns. It was never gone, it was only hidden beneath the waves. The human mind is the same. Peace is not something we must search for, but the natural state of our being when it is no longer disturbed. Mindfulness is the path that leads us back to that stillness. It is not a hurried road, nor a race toward achievement. It is an art of returning, where every step, every breath, every glance becomes a miracle. When we are truly present, even washing our hands, closing a door, or gazing at the evening sky becomes a deep meditation. The world doesn't change, only the way we see it does. That shift in perception makes everything luminous again, like a mirror wiped clean of dust. We begin to see life in the breath of the wind, love in a stranger's eyes, and even within pain, the seed of awakening. In that moment, we realize, the true power of mindfulness does not lie in escaping the world, but in embracing it fully within our heart. Someone once asked, "How can I stay mindful amid the pressures of modern life?" The answer is not in running away, but in learning how to pause right in the middle of movement. To pause doesn't mean to withdraw. It means to stop within. Like one standing in the midst of a bustling market, yet remaining calm and clear. Pause to see that nothing needs to be rushed, everything unfolds in its own rhythm. In that very pause, the mind rests, and we begin to see things as they truly are, unobscured by illusion. When the mind stops, the world becomes transparent. Every sound, every image, every touch becomes a silent Dharma talk. The song of a bird, the sound of rain, even the hum of city traffic, all whisper the same reminder: come back to the present moment. Mindfulness doesn't divide meditation from life, or stillness from movement. For in truth, everywhere can be a temple, wherever the mind learns to rest and to shine. When mindfulness arises, we no longer fear loneliness, for in solitude we can feel life breathing. We no longer fear silence, for in silence, wisdom speaks. We no longer fear change, for we understand that change is the essence of all things. Impermanence ceases to be an enemy, it becomes a gentle teacher reminding us to live more deeply in every moment. Some people come to meditation to escape suffering. But meditation is not an escape, it is the courage to face suffering, to understand it, and to embrace it with awareness. When we truly see our pain, it transforms. Like a crying child, what our suffering needs is not advice, but presence. When held with compassion, it softens, it heals. Mindfulness is that gaze, one that does not judge or resist, but simply knows. The Buddha once said, "In this world, no fire burns like desire. No river is as deep as craving. And no net is as tangled as ignorance." Mindfulness is the lamp that helps us recognize that fire, that river, that net. So that we are not burned, not swept away, not ensnared. Mindfulness is the gate to freedom, yet that gate is not somewhere far away, it is within your own heart. Every time you breathe with awareness, you take one step closer through that gate. When we understand mindfulness deeply, we see that every emotion, fear, anger, sadness, carries a lesson. Fear teaches humility. Sorrow teaches compassion. Anger reveals the boundaries of the ego. If we observe instead of react, every emotion becomes a living Dharma teaching. A place where the mind learns to understand, and then to let go. To let go does not mean to abandon. It means to release attachment. We still live, love, and work, but we are no longer enslaved by them. When the mind is free from clinging, the world remains. Yet it feels lighter, freer. We can love without fear of loss, give without calculation, live without needing to prove anything. That is true freedom, freedom amidst bondage, serenity amidst storms. Gradually, we realize that mindfulness is not just a method for better living, it is a transformation of perception. It changes how we see everything. Before, we saw the world as something to possess, now we see it as a gift to be grateful for. Before, we sought to control, now we learn to harmonize. Before, we lived in endless striving, now we pause and smile at what already is. That is how mindfulness transforms all things, not through force, but through understanding. Understanding that nothing needs to be hurried, nothing needs to be held. Understanding that everything unfolds exactly as it should, and our only task is to be fully present with clarity and compassion. When understanding deepens to that level, you can sit in the midst of a storm with a sky-like mind. For you know the storm will pass, and clouds can never harm the sky. From that understanding, you begin to live differently. You no longer chase happiness, for you have become happiness itself. You no longer seek peace, for peace is how you exist. You no longer fear death, for you have learned how to live deeply in each breath of life. Perhaps that is what the Buddha truly wished to offer. Not blind faith or complex ritual, but a way of being, simple, awake, and profound. A mind that knows how to pause, how to see, and how to live. From that place, wisdom blooms naturally, like a lotus rising from the mud, pure and fragrant amidst the world. Mindfulness is not the end of practice, it is the beginning of every awakening. Each time you return to your breath, you are walking the same path the Buddha walked. The same path countless awakened beings have walked. A path with no destination, because every step is the arrival. Let Buddha's wisdom journey continue to walk beside you on that path. The path of listening to your breath, of living slowly, of finding peace not in some distant place, but here, in this very moment. If your heart touches stillness as you listen to these words, we invite you to subscribe and join us in exploring the wisdom of mindfulness and Buddhist insight. And share in the comments what most deeply moved you. Not merely to speak, but to listen to the voice of your own heart. Because perhaps, in writing those few words, you have already taken your first step home. To the place where the mind no longer wanders. Where peace is no longer sought, but simply lived. In every breath, in every smile, when the mind begins to settle, something miraculous happens. The world no longer seems to be against us. It's not that the world has changed, it's that our way of seeing has transformed. From a clouded mind, we perceive everything through the lenses of fear, desire, and control. But when the light of mindfulness shines through, the same scenes, the same sounds, suddenly appear clear and compassionate in an extraordinary way. The rain is no longer an inconvenience but the earth's gentle breath. A wrinkle on the face is no longer a mark of aging, but a trace of a life that has smiled and loved deeply. And in that moment, we understand. Mindfulness does not separate us from life, it brings us back to life with a whole heart. There is no longer a boundary between meditation and daily life, between practice and the world, for all merge into one continuous flow, the living present. We don't need to go to the mountains or abandon the world. We only need to learn how to truly see in the ordinary. When washing dishes, know that you are washing dishes. When walking, be aware of your feet touching the earth. When speaking, be conscious of every word, so that words do not harm, but become sounds of understanding and love. In that wakefulness, we begin to perceive the fragility and preciousness of all things. Nothing is guaranteed to last, each moment passes, dissolving into impermanence. Yet it is precisely this impermanence that makes life beautiful. If flowers never wilted, how could we cherish their fragrance? If sunsets never faded, how could our hearts tremble before the last light of day? If we could not die, we would never truly know how to live. Mindfulness teaches us not only to see life in every breath but also to see death within it. Each inhalation is birth, each exhalation is death. Between the two, a miracle unfolds. We are still alive. When we see this clearly, the heart naturally learns to cherish, to be humble, to love without condition. From such deep understanding, compassion blooms effortlessly, not from preaching, not from trying. We begin to feel the suffering of others as if it were our own. We see that everyone in this world is struggling with fear, ignorance, and the longing to be accepted. When we see this, instead of judging, we simply smile, the smile of understanding. That smile doesn't mean everything is right, it means we understand. Understanding is the root of compassion. And compassion is the living expression of wisdom. And within that understanding, we stop trying to change others. Instead, we return to change ourselves, not to become better, but to return to what is true. That truth needs no decoration, no proof, no recognition. Like the sun, it only needs to shine, whether anyone notices or not, it still radiates. When we live in truth, our actions become natural and transparent. No more hidden motives, no more masks, no more fear of being misunderstood. We become light as breath, soft as water, yet steady as a mountain. That is the power of mindfulness, the strength of gentleness. Water is not hard, yet it can wear down stone. Compassion is not loud, yet it can transform the world. We come to realize that practice is not about becoming someone else, it's about coming home to ourselves. Mindfulness doesn't turn us into saints, it helps us see both the light and the shadow within, and embrace them in understanding. When we can gaze into our own darkness without fear, that is when true light arises. Many seek enlightenment as a distant goal, yet enlightenment is not a faraway destination. It is simply awakening, here and now, in the most ordinary moments. When we truly listen to another without judgment, that is enlightenment. When we walk in the rain without complaint, that is enlightenment. When we pause before anger and take a deep breath, that is enlightenment. Enlightenment is not of the future, it unfolds in each mindful moment. One day, when the mind becomes as calm as a quiet river, we begin to see the world differently. No more me and them, no more gain and loss, only one continuous stream of life. We see that what we call self is merely a temporary union of body, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness, arising, existing, then fading. When we see this, we stop clinging to the small, and naturally merge into the vast. We, of the universe. No boundary remains between inside and outside, love and hate. All becomes one song of existence. Then we no longer need to try to love, for our very nature is love. We no longer need to forgive, for in true understanding, there is no one left to forgive. We no longer strive for peace, for peace has become our natural breath. This is the state of one who lives deeply in mindfulness, where action arises not from will, but from harmony with the way. And so, we realize the way is not somewhere far. The way is when we mindfully wash a dish, speak a kind word, or gaze deeply at a falling leaf. The way is not in scriptures, but in each grateful breath. The way is not a path to walk, but the manner in which we walk. Those who live mindfully are no different from ordinary people, except that they know they are alive. Most of us live unaware, breathing, hearing, feeling, yet asleep. We move through life like dreamers, pulled by memories and worries. But when mindfulness arises, the dream dissolves, and we awaken, not into a new world, but into the world that has always been here. It is a simple awakening. Yet it changes everything. From then on, each morning we smile, not because life is perfect, but because we are alive. When difficulties arise, we no longer ask, why me, but what is this teaching me? When someone hurts us, we don't retaliate, but see the pain behind their action. That is true freedom, the freedom of a heart that understands, that loves, and is no longer ruled by ignorance. As life flows on like a long dream, the mindful one is the one who has awakened. And the awakened one no longer fears the dream, knowing it too is part of the way. They live in the world, yet not of it. They work, love, care, yet are not bound. They know that every day is an opportunity to return, to themselves, to the present moment, to what is real. If you are still walking this path of peace, remember. There is no faster path, no slower path. Each person has their own rhythm, and every step matters. The only thing that truly matters is to keep returning. Return to your breath, your smile, this moment. Where there is no past to regret. No future to fear. Only life breathing with you. And when you understand this, whether you sit in a crowded street or in a quiet room, you are already walking in the way. Because the way is not a place. It is the quality of awareness within your heart. There is something we only truly understand when we have walked far enough. On the path of mindfulness. The true power of mindfulness does not lie in controlling life, but in being awake, to see clearly and live fully with what is. As long as we still want to control, we are positioning ourselves as someone against life. But when we are mindful, we are simply with life, as the breath flows through the lungs, as the river flows past the mountain. No forcing. No avoiding, only seeing and accepting. And from that acceptance, wisdom naturally arises, not the kind born from thought, but from the deep silence of the heart. When we truly rest in mindfulness, we no longer wish to change things immediately. We don't want to end suffering, or be more peaceful, or be better at meditation. We only want to be here, with everything that is. Even the unease, the fear, the pain. Because only when we dare to face our suffering can we begin to understand it. And once we understand, suffering melts away like morning dew under sunlight. The Buddha taught that every emotion is impermanent, rising and falling like waves on the ocean of the mind. When we no longer get carried away by each wave, we begin to see the still water beneath. Mindfulness doesn't make the waves disappear, it teaches us to recognize the waves without forgetting the sea. We still have emotions, we still have thoughts, but they no longer rule over us. When anger arises, we know, this is anger present. When sadness arises, we know, this is sadness passing through. And that very moment of knowing, however small, is the doorway to freedom. Mindfulness is the art of returning. We are not searching for a new place, but returning to where we have never truly left, the present moment. Each breath is a step home, each mindful step is a bell of remembrance. When the mind is awake, nothing is too small to be sacred. The sound of rain, the fragrance of tea, the light through the leaves, all become the Buddhist teachings. If we know how to listen with a clear heart. And then, we realize that in this ever-changing world, there is one thing that never changes, the awareness that knows. That awareness is neither born nor dies, it is not stained by joy or sorrow. It simply knows. When we live from that place, we no longer have to chase after anything. Joy is no longer something to find, it is the natural expression of a mind settled in mindfulness. Life will still have pain, still have loss, but now we no longer drown in them. Like a swimmer in turbulent water, not because the water has calmed, but because they have learned how to move with it. Mindfulness doesn't erase challenges, it transforms how we face them. Instead of reacting, we observe. Instead of resisting, we understand. Instead of fearing, we open. And in each of those small choices, freedom blooms. Someone once asked, how long must I practice mindfulness before I find peace? But in truth, mindfulness is peace. It is not a path that leads to calm, it is calm, already present in each step. When you breathe in and know you are breathing in, you have already touched the ground of peace. For the mind only suffers when it is elsewhere, lost in the past or racing toward the future. When it stays here, in the present, everything becomes simple and complete. A single moment of mindfulness can save an entire day lost in confusion. A single mindful breath can soothe pain carried for years. And a life built on mindfulness, no matter how quiet, how ordinary, is a masterpiece of awakening. But mindfulness is not a concept to admire. It must be lived, touched, breathed. You don't need to be a monk, nor retreat into the forest, only to know, right now, that you are alive. When washing dishes and knowing you are washing dishes, when listening and truly listening, when eating and knowing you are eating, that is meditation. Every moment of awareness is a drop of the Dharma, soaking into the soil of your heart and making it bloom. That is why the Buddha called mindfulness, the one path that leads to purity and the end of suffering. Because when the mind is clear, the world is clear. When the mind understands, suffering becomes a path, not a burden. When the mind is still, the noise of life fades into distant wind. And when the mind is truly at rest, we realize, there is nowhere to go, for we have already come home. That home is nowhere but within us, silent, vast, and radiant. No longer covered by greed, anger, and delusion. It becomes as gentle as a morning lake. Then, every action becomes meditation, every breath becomes mindfulness, every gaze becomes compassion. We no longer live to find happiness, we live to recognize that happiness is already here. There will be days you forget, moments your mind drifts away. That's perfectly okay. Mindfulness does not demand perfection. It only invites you to return. Again and again, with gentleness and without judgment. Like a loving mother, it never scolds you for being lost, it simply opens its arms and whispers, "Welcome home." And each time you return, you come closer, to yourself, to truth, to freedom. So don't look for enlightenment somewhere far away. Enlightenment is not a light at the end of the path, it is the light shining on each step you take. When you breathe, walk, speak, smile, or listen, all are the Dharma, the way, the living mindfulness. And when you realize this, you will see that nothing in life is meaningless. Every person you meet, every challenge you face, every emotion you hold, all are teachers guiding you home. For every moment of living is a lesson in awakening. If you have walked with Buddha's wisdom journey to this point, take a deep breath, and feel life flowing within you. Just this moment, nothing more is needed. You are alive. You are breathing. You are awake. And that is enough. If today's message touches your heart, please subscribe to Buddha's Wisdom Journey, where together, we cultivate stillness and wisdom amid the noise of modern life. And if something in you feels moved, share your reflection in the comments below. Because sometimes, one sincere line from your heart can become a small light guiding another soul home. For in the deepest awakening, we are no longer separate beings, but lights illuminating the path for one another.